Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. For any of you that I may not have already met, my name is Marla Gordon. I'm the Director of Clinical Services here at Kendal at Home. And we're pleased to have with us today Bridget Whitford from Cleveland Hearing and Speech Services. Oh, I'm going to apologize. My screen just disappeared and here you are. We're happy to have Bridget Whitford with us, from Director of Hearing Services with Cleveland Hearing and Speech Center. So Bridget, we're always happy to have you with us. And today you're tackling the subject of what is the best hearing aid for me? And I was doing a little investigating myself, and the choices and the technology are so overwhelming. So I can't imagine how individuals even begin deciding what is best for them. So we're happy to have you with us to help make that decision hopefully a little easier for everybody. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks so much, Marla, for the introduction. And I agree. I think that looking to purchase a hearing aid it's essentially impossible to just look at all of the different technologies and figure out what you would need. So I'm going to try to help focus us a little bit here. So what is the best hearing aid for me? Okay. And I think that the important thing to remember is that we're talking about not which hearing aid is best, but which hearing aid is best for you. And I like to tell the analogy about buying a car. I think sometimes people say, what's the best car out there? And if you asked, different people, somebody might say a Porsche and somebody else might say a Mercedes. And I don't know if you worked for Ford, you might say a Ford car. But regardless, people would have differing opinions. But I would say, maybe let's take a Porsche. Many people might agree a Porsche is a great car. Well, I have 5 children. And a Porsche would do me no good. I mean, it might be fun for an afternoon, but it is not at all practical and would not meet any of my needs in a day in, day out kind of a way. So for me, I am a proud driver of a minivan. I know that's not a popular choice. I know most people would not say that a minivan is the best car, but for my purposes and for my family, a minivan is an exact perfect match for what I need. And when we look at hearing aids, it's very similar. There is not a best hearing aid. There is not one that is better than all the others. What's important is to find the hearing aid that best matches your need. So we're going to talk a little bit about how you can figure out what your needs are so that then you can come to the conclusion of what is the best hearing aid that you need. So there's lots of personal decisions and things that are going to go into figuring out what would be the best type of a hearing aid. The first is your hearing loss. So I have up here on this graph, if you're able to see this, I'm not sure if you can see my, my cursor or not, but across the top or the x-axis, we have from low frequency or low pitches to high frequency or high pitches. So this is much like a piano. And when we test hearing, what we do is we test your hearing in all of the different pitches. And we want to see what the softest sound is that you're able to hear. And so what we do is we play the beeps and we make them softer and softer. And then we mark down on a graph like this where your hearing falls for both your right ear and your left ear. And that gives us an idea of how loud things need to be at each different pitch in order for you to hear them. And the way we quantify hearing loss is using these terms of normal. I don't really love slight. I would normally say normal, mild, moderate, moderately severe, severe, and profound. Oftentimes people will come to me and give a percentage. I have 50% hearing loss in my ears. I don't love percentages. They're not very accurate. Sometimes people use these decibels or this loudness levels as percentages, although it's a logarithmic scale, so it's not a really great. Percentages are not great. Audiologists prefer to use the terminology in describing it, mild or moderate. But the degree of hearing loss that you have can factor into what hearing aids would be even a possibility for you. Okay, so if you have a very severe or profound hearing loss, we need to choose a hearing aid that would allow us to get a lot of power to you. And not all hearing aids can do that. Or if you have a hearing loss that is maybe only in the high frequencies, we need to make sure we choose a hearing aid that doesn't stuff you up. Okay, because you already have good low frequencies, you're already hearing those bass sounds. And then if you put something that's very full in your ear, it could make you feel very occluded or stuffed up. So there's sometimes your hearing loss impacts what choices that you have. in terms of hearing aids. But I would say that the biggest thing that we look at is our lifestyle and what type of environments you're in. So we're going to talk a lot about lifestyle. We're most interested in what type of listening environments are you in? And so are you somebody who has a more quiet lifestyle? Okay. Are you somebody who gardens and visits maybe with your family members who come over in the evenings and you sit on the, maybe the front porch and you enjoy a very quiet lifestyle? Or are you somebody who gets up in the morning, goes to the gym, goes to work for a few hours, maybe takes a class, goes to church, lots of group meetings? So those different lifestyles are very different in terms of listening environment. So that's going to factor into what hearing aid is most appropriate or what is best for you. The other thing is how much difficulty you have in those environments. So you may say, I spend a lot of time at home watching TV, but I have no difficulty hearing in the TV. But I do have difficulty when I go to church. And so, that is important to me. And so where you're having your difficulty is also important. And how important it is for you to hear better in those situations. So sometimes people say, well, I have a lot of difficulty hearing when I'm in an airplane. I travel a lot and I have a lot of difficulty hearing in an airplane. But it's really not that important because I'm also with my spouse or with my coworkers, or I tend to just put my headphones in and I know the spiel on the airplane. So that's not as important to me. So how important it is for you to hear better in the situation, or you might say, I don't spend a lot of time in this place, but it's a highly important place. I'm still working and I struggle in my weekly staff meetings. And although it's only an hour a week, it's the most important hour a week of my week. So that's a highly important time. So we kind of factor in how important that time is. And then the other thing that we want to think about is not only the activities that you're currently doing and that you're involved in, but maybe are there activities that you've let go by the wayside that you would enjoy doing, but you've started to avoid. So maybe, I used to play in a bridge group, but there were so many tables going on at the same time and it was loud and I struggled to hear, but I really wish I could get back into that. Or, I used to go to Sunday services, but I couldn't hear, or I used to volunteer or work and, it was so noisy. I couldn't understand what was going on. So I chose not to participate. So we're hoping to maybe get you back involved in things that you might have let go. So your lifestyle is a very, very important part of the decision about what hearing aid is best for you. And when you're talking with your audiologist about your lifestyle and what you're doing, the more specific you can be, the better. So literally saying, I like to listen to music, you might think that that's very specific. It's even not specific enough. Do you like to listen to music in a live venue? Do you go out to Blossom where it's an open air? Do you go to the orchestra where it's a more closed space? Do you not listen to live music? What you mean by listening to music is listening to streaming on your phone or in the car. What do you mean by listening to music? When you're talking about the TV, how far away is it? What else is going on in your household while you're watching TV? Are there other people talking? Are there other things going on? Or is it really quiet and, you watch TV and you live alone and so it's just you and the TV? What do groups mean to you? Is group 3 people and going to lunch with 3 ladies? Or is a group, 40 people on Sunday afternoons and, 12 of them are grandchildren running around? What does that really mean? Even as specific as I'm in the car a lot. Are you the driver or are you the passenger? Because the type of technologies that we have and how we set it up impacts, we can make things louder on one side than the other side. Or are you somebody in the back seat? And so, where you even sit in the car, and that level of detail can really help an audiologist not only decide what technology is best for you, but once you get that technology, programming that technology and making sure that that technology is working the best for you. Being specific is really important. There's other things that we consider when we talk about what is the best hearing aid. Dexterity. All hearing aids are powered by some type of a battery. So whether or not you change that battery every few days to a week or two, they're very small batteries, versus if you get something maybe that's rechargeable, or if you get a very tiny hearing aid versus one that's a little bit larger. If you have numb fingers and you have some difficulty with dexterity, that's important to know. If you have some range of motion difficulties, if you're going to have difficulty getting it up into your ear, some of the hearing aids you do better using two hands, putting them in the ear. Do you have that range of ability to use both hands? That it will be important for us to know. How's your vision? Are you able to see the small things? Are you able to to navigate a new product and be able to figure it out with your vision? Of course, cosmetics, everybody, users are probably more concerned about cosmetics than we would be. We feel it's much more noticeable when you're not hearing well than any type of hearing aid could be, but certainly cosmetics and what you're comfortable with is an important consideration when you're determining what's the best hearing aid for you. And then lastly, budget. It is the reality of hearing aids is that they are not inexpensive. To give you a rough idea, hearing aids start at about $1,000 each at Cleveland Hearing and Speech Center, and they go up to about $3,000 each. So that could be up to a $6,000 investment in hearing aids. And so that is not chump change for really anybody. And so a budget is important. I do want to just mention and give like a shameless plug for Cleveland Hearing and Speech Center at this point, because Cleveland Hearing and Speech Center is committed to helping people regardless of their ability to pay. And so we are a provider, not only for people who can afford the different technologies, but also for people who can't. So we have some reduced fee programs available. We also accept lots of different insurance plans, including Medicaid, which are for people who are more limited income, and also many Medicare Advantage plans. So if you are a senior and you have chosen a Medicare Advantage plan as opposed to straight Medicare with the supplement, if you have a Medicare Advantage plan, many of those plans are offering hearing aid benefits. And we are a provider on many, if we're trying to get to be on any of them that we know of to be a provider on. So that allows us to serve people regardless of their ability to pay and what their insurance is. So just kind of a shameless plug, but budget is an important part when you're considering what product is best for you. So in choosing a hearing aid, other things that you have to think about: one hearing aid versus two hearing aids. The style, what is the hearing aid going to look like? The technology level, what's it going to sound like? Is it going to be rechargeable? Are we going to connect it to any other devices? And I'm going to talk about each of those in a little bit more depth, because those are really important considerations. They're even more important than, let's say, choosing cup holders in the car that you might in my minivan. This is kind of the nuts and bolts of it, of what you need. So one hearing aid versus two hearing aid. Most people, as we age, have hearing loss in both ears. So the natural aging process would have hearing loss be in both ears. Occasionally, people only have hearing loss in one ear, or their hearing loss is much worse, let's say, in one ear than the other ear, and that may impact a decision. But if somebody has hearing loss in one ear, obviously we would recommend one hearing aid. But if somebody has hearing loss in both ears, we would recommend typically hearing aids in both ears. We used to wear monocles. Back in the olden days, people would wear eyeglasses with one monocle, and now everybody wears two eyeglasses. It's very similar to hearing aids. Our brain is designed to take input from both sides and work together. So you actually hear better when you're hearing from both ears. Styles of hearing aids. This is kind of what everybody wants to talk about, is what hearing aids look like, and which one they're going to wear. And so as you can see here, hearing aids go from being very, very small, fitting almost completely into the ear, into more custom products that are a little bit larger, where they're pretty deep in the ear, and now they're filling up a little bit more of the ear area. And then in the ear hearing aid, where they fill up the entire bowl area of your ear. So these first four products are what we call custom products, because they are custom made for your ear. We need to make ear impressions, and they fit inside your ear. We've seen a big resurgence of people being interested in this type of a product in 2020. and 2021, and that is because of mask wearing. Because our other two products, the type that go behind the ear, that are kind of hidden behind the ear with either a thin wire or a tubing here into a mold in your ear, these two products hang behind your ear. Those products with mask wearing people have found that to be challenging. You certainly can do it, but you do need to be a little bit more careful when you're taking masks on and off, that you might not grab the hearing aid at the same time and take it off your ear and inadvertently lose it. So we've seen more people interested in the ear products, sorry. So, but that styles of hearing aid, also the degree of hearing loss may impact the style that you can use. So for example, if you have a very severe hearing loss, a severe to profound hearing loss, you're not going to be able to wear some of these smaller hearing aids, okay? They just are not going to provide you enough power. You also, if you have a high frequency hearing loss, you may not want to use these first four custom products because you might feel a little bit too stuffed up if your hearing is really good in the low frequencies. You might want to have a more open fitting hearing aid like these behind the ear products, okay? And so those type of things, these choices that we're talking about, they kind of interact with each other, as you can see. So we want to think about your hearing loss, your preferences, your budget, and you kind of put them all together to find out what the best solution would be for you. But what a hearing aid looks like and what it sounds like are two different things. So we just looked at those different pictures about what hearing aids look like, but you could not tell by looking at those hearing aids which hearing aid was a premium or let's say, for lack of a better term, a more expensive hearing aid versus which was a more basic or essential hearing aid. Because hearing aids may look the same, but what's inside of them is what makes them different in terms of their level of technology and their sound processing and how they work. So hearing aid technology, hearing aids essentially have like a little computer chip in them now. And this little computer chip takes the sound of the environment and what's around you, and it brings the sound in and it analyzes it and it determines what to do with it. Whether it needs to be amplified because this is a voice that you want to hear, or whether or not you don't want to amplify it because it's the hum of the refrigerator and that's just a constant steady state and we don't want to hear it, and working on what to do with different sounds. I can tell you just rough, people say, well, what's the difference between $1,000 hearing aid and a $3,000 hearing aid? Why would I spend more money on hearing aids? And hearing aids they have lots of different advanced features, but I will tell you that the number one thing that you're paying for in more advanced hearing aids have to do with their ability to handle background noise. Background noise is the bane of all of our existence. I have normal hearing and I have difficulty in background noise. I go out to a noisy restaurant, I'm at a family wedding, I'm even, out, at the mall and the fountain is going and people are talking and conversations I'm not involved in are close to me. Those noisy situations are difficult for even people with normal hearing. And people with hearing loss have even that much more difficulty. Back in the day, our older hearing aids, they used to make things louder. So an analog hearing aid that you might have gotten 20 or 30 years ago, those hearing aids made everything louder. So if you're listening to, you're talking to somebody and then there's somebody else talking right next to them, it's making everything louder. You don't even know, the table next to you at the restaurant can be very confusing. So the more advanced technology, digital hearing aids, and the advances that digital hearing aids have brought is essentially providing different tools to help eliminate background noise and help you hear better in background noise. That is the more expensive, the more premium products do a better and more aggressive job of handling background noise. Now, how aggressive and how much technology you need is, again, back to your lifestyle, okay? And the type of lifestyle that you lead and how aggressive do you need to be in controlling noise. This is an example of a handout that we use with people when they come in and they talk about hearing aids. And we have these 4 bars, and we talk about premium hearing aids, advanced hearing aids, select hearing aids, and value hearing aids. There's kind of 4 technology levels, if you will. And what your lifestyle looks like kind of helps us determine how much of that premium technology you might need. And so to give you an idea, an entry-level product, our good technology is adequate for people who live quiet lifestyles. So when you're at home, you're talking to 1 or 2 other people, you're listening to the television, you don't go out to restaurants that often, you prefer to be at home, you're rarely in large groups. If this is the type of lifestyle that you lead, then a basic hearing aid or a value or a good level hearing aid, a good digital hearing aid will most likely meet your needs. And so, we're big believers and we want to find the right match. That's what we said, it may be the minivan. Okay, this might be the minivan of hearing aids, but if it meets your needs, it's what you need. And there's no reason to overbuy if it's not necessary. When you get into some of the more better technologies or the advanced technologies, these are good for people who spend some time in quiet and also some time in noisy environments. So they may be home a lot, they're watching television, but they might, have a dinner group that they get together with a couple times a week. They can occasionally go out to the restaurants, or they go to church on Sunday and out to a restaurant once or twice a week. But the bulk of their time is spent, at home with their immediate family. So this is somebody who spends a lot of time in quiet, but maybe is more occasionally out in social situations. When you start getting into your premium or your best or better level technologies, these are for people who have very active lifestyles and they're in a lot of changing environments. So they might still, the type of people that we typically would see choosing this type of technology, many of them are still employed or volunteering. They're active. They may go out to eat several times a week. They might be in church groups. They might be out on the golf course where there's wind noise. They might be riding bikes. They might be canoeing. They're out and about and they have differing, they're in the car. The car is a very noisy place. An airplane is a very noisy place. They're in these different environments, and hearing well in a variety of different environments is important to them. And so for the people who need that more advanced, that more expensive, that more premium level technology, they typically live very active lifestyles. And then the technology is there to support them in those lifestyles. Another thing that I want to talk about is hearing aids and rechargeable batteries. That's kind of the newest thing that's out right now. Hearing aids went digital probably close to 20 years ago, and they really started to do a much better job of reducing background noise. And so those have been the advances over the last 20 years. But in the last few years, maybe 2 to 3 years at most, what we have are rechargeable batteries. And this has helped many people be more independent with their hearing aids. Typically, the biggest challenge that we saw with people who had vision or dexterity issues, and we know that hearing loss affects our seniors more than any other population, so vision and dexterity issues are an issue in that population. So rechargeable batteries are much easier. You can see from my picture here, the hearing aids, they kind of just get set into the case, and then these cases get plugged into the wall and charged. So much like if you're using a smartphone or even any type of a cell phone, if you plug in, these plug in and you charge them at night, and then the charge lasts all day. And so newest to the market is this rechargeable custom product. It's over here on the left, where the in-the-ear hearing aid, where those custom products are now rechargeable. So that's really brand new in maybe the last year that type of a product has been available. And that has been met with a lot of people being very happy about that. I will say that having people get hearing aids and be independent with their hearing aids is, of course, our goal. I want to also kind of put out a plug for having your hearing checked as soon as you might notice that there's a problem, and acting on it if you do have a hearing loss sooner rather than later. It kind of goes back to that. It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. And this is very true in hearing aid use. I have some patients who have been wearing hearing aids, let's say since they were 60 years old, and now they're 85, 90 years old. They're able to change batteries, put them in the ear, even very small things, because they have the muscle memory, because they've been doing it for 20 some years. They're very competent in doing that. Versus an 85 or 90-year-old who comes to me and is getting hearing aids for the first time, it is more likely than not that that person may need some assistance in getting the batteries changed, getting the hearing aid in. It's just harder. It's a harder skill to learn at an older age. And so there's a variety of reasons, and we have other talks about this, but in terms of maintaining your independence, and I think we've even done that talk, but being able to maintain your independence and handling your hearing aid independently, if you're fit earlier with hearing aids, if you have hearing loss earlier and you choose to treat it sooner, lots of advantages, but one of them is that you would more likely to be independent with your hearing aids. Another big thing that is a big decider and driver for people when they're choosing what is the best hearing aid for them is the connectivity. Hearing aids can connect to lots of different things. We have teenagers have had them connected to their gaming systems, like we have people who have them connected to televisions and all sorts of things. But the biggest thing that people like to connect to is a smartphone. So when we're deciding what hearing aids are best for you, we're going to ask, do you have a smartphone? Do you use it comfortably? Okay. If you're somebody who says, oh my gosh, yeah, I have an app for this and an app for that, and I'm on my phone all the time and I use it, then you may be somebody who wants to connect to it. If you're somebody who is saying to yourself right now, what's an app? What's an app? I don't know what that is. Then chances are you're not somebody who uses a smartphone regularly, and this may not be as important to you. Okay. You may not need a hearing aid that is able to connect to your smartphone. But if you are somebody who uses a smartphone and uses apps, I will tell you that the cell phone and hearing aid connect beautifully together. You can hear your telephone calls in your hearing aids, which is kind of nice. As I mentioned earlier, we hear better using two ears, not just one. So when we use the old-fashioned phone, and we had just the ability to hear in one ear, and then the other ear was kind of being distracted by other things, it was not as good of a listening experience as when you can hear using both ears. So using the phone, if you listen to music on your smartphone, if you stream any of your TV shows on your phone or on your iPad that is Bluetooth enabled, we can stream all of those different things so that you can hear right in your hearing aids. And what's nice about that is that your hearing aids are designed, of course, amongst all these other things, to amplify in the frequencies that are most important for you. So where your hearing loss is where we're giving you amplification. And so it is a custom experience. And so your hearing will be better across all of those different platforms. So whether or not that's important to you, whether or not you're somebody who uses technology and smartphones and such, or not, is another question that we're going to ask to help you find the best technology for you. And so in summary, other things that you can connect to. I'm sorry, I mentioned you can connect to computers. There's also, this is an important thing, a clip-on remote mic. We can get accessories for the hearing aids. So not only are hearing aids better at helping in background noise, but there's some simple accessories that work with hearing aids that can also make your comfort in noisy situations a lot better. So a little tiny clip-on mic or a little microphone here, like this round one that sits on the table, is a great option for people who maybe are going in a car and the road noise is very noisy, an airplane, a restaurant, and you would just give it to your talking partner. And the talking partner would either clip it on or put it on the table in front of them. There's a wand you could point, and it allows you to hear their voice then right in your hearing aid. So it takes, maybe they are a little bit of distance from you, maybe they're 4, 5, 6 feet away from you, but if they're wearing or have that microphone close to them, then their voice goes right into your hearing aid as if they were standing right next to you. So being able to connect to that, many of us have Bluetooth televisions, being able to connect to Bluetooth televisions. Those are some of the advances that some of the more the better and best type hearing aids or the premium hearing aids have available in them. And so the type of things that we're going to consider in summary is the degree of hearing loss you have. That will help us determine what style hearing aid is most appropriate for you. Your lifestyle, like I said, that cannot be minimized. To me, that's the most important thing. What level of technology you need in the hearing aid and what maybe accessories you need to that hearing aid is going to be really dependent on your lifestyle. Your dexterity and vision, your dexterity and your vision will help us also determine your style of hearing aid and whether or not you want batteries that need to be changed or rechargeable options. Of course, your view of cosmetics and what style speaks to you as being most cosmetically appealing is also a consideration to take into account. And then also as we mentioned, your budget. That is the reality of things. Sometimes that determines if somebody's going to get one hearing aid or two hearing aids, although I would rather somebody get a lower end technology and get two of them than one high end technology. But also budget will also factor into that, what technology you put in a hearing aid also. These things are all important considerations, and it's the audiologist or the hearing instrument specialist's job who you see to help you walk through all of these different decision making, to talk about all these different things to help make these decisions. And it guides you down a path to finding the hearing aid that's most appropriate. What you might see that I did not do today is I did not say, oh, the best hearing aid is brand XYZ model 123. That is not the case. There are 4, 5, 6 major manufacturers of hearing aids. All of them put out good products. All of them have things that they're kind of known for. And so an audiologist is going to work with you to talk about these considerations, to find those products that are best for you. Because there is not one product or company that is the best hearing aid. And I think that that is really important to know and understand. A lot of times I'll get people coming in and they say, well, I want XYZ hearing aid because my neighbor has it and she does really well with her hearing aids. And my brother has 123 hearing aid and his have been in a drawer and there've been nothing but a headache. So I don't want those kind of hearing aids. And that is not necessarily the case. How well that hearing aid has been fit to the person. So another thing to consider is where you're going for your services. You want to make sure that you're going to be seeing a provider who spends the time to talk these different things through with you so that when you do find that right match, they're not something that's left in a drawer. They are that person who's getting a lot of value from their hearing aids and they're using them and they're incorporating them into their lifestyle to enhance their lifestyle and enhance their communication and their connections to their life and to the people in their life and to the activities in their life that are meaningful to them. So as we said, it's not which hearing aid is best, but which hearing aid is best for you. And talking to your audiologist is the best way to determine that. Oh, I've done a lot of talking here, haven't I? Yes, I have. So I'm going to open, I'm sorry, Marla, there you are.
All right, okay, I was going to say thank you so much. And wanted to let everyone know if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and click on chat or Q&A at the bottom of your screen and type those in. There was a lot of wonderful information, so we might have some questions out there.
Excellent.
Give everyone a couple of minutes to
type
some things in there.
Absolutely. We can certainly wait to hear what kind of questions come up. And I'm always happy. I did in this slide presentation put my contact information or the contact information of Cleveland Hearing and Speech Center. And you can get to me that way, or you can get to any of our team members. We have 4 locations at Cleveland Hearing and Speech Center in University Circle on Case's campus. We are a training site for their graduate students. We also have an office in Lyndhurst, in Broadview Heights, and in Westlake. So we've got 4 offices that we provide audiology services out of. And I have a team of 8 audiologists who work together to provide those services.
Thank you so much. Do you want to stop sharing your screen, Bridget, and then they'll be able to see you when they ask?
Of course.
And we do have a question. Someone is asking, does Bluetooth streaming from a TV require a device on the TV itself?
the answer to that is it depends on the TV, I believe. I believe that there are some newer TVs that we may be able to connect directly to if it has Bluetooth, but if the TV does not have that, then you may need an intermediary piece that we can plug into your TV that creates that Bluetooth connection, and then the hearing aids can be paired to that.
Thank you. Having worked myself in so many nursing homes and assisted livings over the years as an occupational therapist, seeing the rechargeable hearing aids are amazing, because even as a caregiver trying to manipulate and change those batteries, it's inevitably hard. They landed on the floor and they're going the wrong way. So,
and they get put in pills. I mean, they could get, people have extra ones, or the ones, instead of throwing them away, they put them in a little cup and then somebody thinks it's a pill. And there's a lot of things that can happen with batteries. And so the rechargeables have been really great. And we're seeing, I mean, we don't have enough outlets in our offices. Are just, if I could show you the picture, the hearing aids are just lined up. We might have 30 or 40 charging at a time. Oh, wow. Because we have, we do a large volume of hearing aid business. And so people are really taking to the rechargeable.
So along those lines, someone is asking, how available are the rechargeable custom hearing aids?
By how available do you mean? We have them. We have them at Cleveland Hearing and Speech Center. Not all manufacturers are offering them yet. And so it is, they're only, do I want to say there's only one? I'm not in clinic full time, but I know that our office predominantly uses one manufacturer for custom rechargeable hearing aids. And we've been very happy, and our clients have been very pleased with it. I would expect in the coming, that's how it works, right? Once one company does it, the other companies are going to do it. And so, but that is something that we do have available at Cleveland Hearing and Speech Center.
Do individuals, whether it's Medicare or managed Medicare, do they require typically a referral to make an appointment at one of your facilities, or are they able just to call and schedule that on their own?
They typically do not require a referral, so they could just call and schedule the appointment. And if you give us your insurance information, then we can check your insurance to see if you have any coverage. One thing that I will say about the managed care plans, one of the things that's really wonderful is many of the plans have benefits, and those benefits allow people to get hearing aids at reduced cost. So that is the really positive. The negative of some of those plans is that your choices may be limited. So the way it works is you actually buy the hearing aids from your insurance company, and the insurance company pays us to do the work of getting you the hearing aid. And so the choices of hearing aids that you have, if you choose to use that benefit, may be more limited. So if you say, well, I really want a custom rechargeable, that might not be on the list for your insurance plan. So that we have them available if you say, I've got money in my pocket and I want to buy them. But if you are using a benefit, sometimes your options are a little bit more limited. So that can be a frustration for our audiologists, because they want to get anybody anything they want, but then we are dealing with the confines of your insurance company.
Barbara is clarifying as far as location and being readily available, more specifically in Central Ohio with Ohio State Audiology, as far as availability with rechargeable.
I can't speak specifically to them, but Gail Whitelaw, who runs their program down at Ohio State, is a friend of mine, and I can't imagine that they aren't getting into that. So I would reach out to them. I'm sorry that I don't know specifically what products they're dispensing out of their office, but you could let Gail know that Starkey has that. She would know. Gail, if you're going to Ohio State, you probably know Gail, and she's wonderful. My daughter's a graduate of that program and such, and so you'd be in good hands there.
Is there ever a type of hearing loss that can't be accommodated by a hearing aid?
That is such a good question. There are types of hearing loss that cannot be accommodated by a hearing aid. And many times there might then be surgical things that could help, and implantable hearing aids, a cochlear implant, those type of products may be something. Sometimes you'll see members of the deaf community who just choose not to wear hearing aids because then they use sign language to communicate because their hearing loss is so significant and they haven't seen value in cochlear implants or have chosen not to. So that sometimes does happen. And I will say that people get varying degrees of help from hearing aids. So some people, they put a hearing aid in and things are made louder and better. And they are like, I would never go without them. And they are our raving fans. And then there's some people who, even with the hearing aids, still have more difficulty communicating than others. Usually that is a clarity issue. So their own nerve has such damage that even when the sound is brought in crystal clear and in the best sound quality possible coming out of the hearing aid, it still is being distorted or in their own system. So I always think of it like a radio station. Some people's radio stations are tuned in right on target and you make it louder and they can hear it better. And other people, they maybe the dial is a little bit off and they're not quite on that radio station and they're getting a lot of static. And even when you make it louder, the static is still there. So, so some of it is personalized to the person too. Just like some people might have an illness that, you know, a knee problem that it hurts them a little bit, but they can still get around. And other people, they need to use a wheelchair. You know, I mean, there's differing degrees of illness or disability, if you will. And hearing loss is similar to that, where some people do better with hearing aids than others. But you want to go to a provider that you feel confident and comfortable in their skills. And so you know then that you're doing the best that you possibly can for your hearing loss.
How often do you recommend someone get their hearing tested, even if they have a hearing aid that may be working for them?
You know, if they're actively involved with us, we may recommend only every 2 years or so. If we're monitoring, it might be more frequently every year or so. It's like, oh, you've got a little bit of hearing loss. Why don't you come back next year and see? But if they're actively wearing hearing aids, typically probably about every 2 years, or certainly sooner if they notice a change or they're not hearing as well with their hearing aids. Hearing aids, the life expectancy of them is about 5 to 7 years. And so hearing aids can typically be reprogrammed if your hearing changes a little bit, unless something really catastrophic happened, which is atypical. But if your hearing just changes like we do when we age, we can typically adjust the hearing aid, give you a little bit more gain or volume, or change the frequencies a little bit to kind of grow with your hearing loss if your hearing loss were to change.
Okay. What about things like amplifiers for those individuals maybe that are stubborn like my father and refuse to get hearing aids? What is available? What resources as far as amplifiers might go?
We do have some basic amplifiers. You know, we have a supplier that we work with, but sometimes even people will do things. It was like the old Radio Shack. I don't know if you can find Radio Shacks anymore. Amazon, I think, has pretty much, you know, replaced them. But where you'll see like the Pocket Talker, where it's, you know, you wear the headphones and you have the box, and it's not a great solution for somebody who's active, but if you only need it occasionally, like I just use it when I watch the TV, or the only time I'm really worried about my hearing loss is when I go to the doctor. So I want to make sure I hear the doctor, but I'm not willing to wear a hearing aid or do anything else at other times. You know, those could be good options. That's for interpersonal. There's also amplifier of things you can get, like to connect to your TV, and you can wear headphones when you're watching your TV, or an amplifier for your telephone. But I'll be honest, all the integration that hearing aids now do with televisions and telephones and such is really much slicker and less noticeable and much less of a hassle, if you will, than those other kind of old-fashioned amplifiers.
I guess we would be remiss if we didn't mention too that you know, sometimes individuals that don't want to have their hearing tested, or they don't want to pursue hearing aids, sometimes that hearing deficit can be misconstrued for cognitive deficits because you're not hearing what is going on. So sometimes cognitive deficits are mistakenly diagnosed when really, had you accommodated your hearing loss, there wouldn't be an issue.
Well, there's a tie-in in two ways, Marla. The first is exactly that. And it's always disheartening to me when it's common though, when somebody comes in with their daughter and at that point, they're like, I just can't hear you, but it might actually be a cognitive deficit. But at that point now, the hearing loss is like the better option, right? So they want it at that point to be the hearing loss. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. We also know that hearing loss and cognitive deficits, the cognitive decline, are connected. I don't know if we've done that talk to this group, Marla, I can't remember, but we have a whole talk, like a whole half-hour thing about cognitive decline and hearing loss and how they're connected, and why, and theories around why they're connected. And so, but we do know that we want to treating hearing loss is recommended. And so for all those reasons, so it's not misconstrued as, and so that you're keeping that auditory nerve and that auditory function of your brain active and engaged.
Great.
Yeah.
Don't see any other questions currently, but that was a wealth of information. So we definitely appreciate everything you've shared with us today. And we look forward to our next time to share more information with you.
Yes.
And I think that cognitive presentation might be a great one.
Yes,
let's consider in the future too.
We'll connect, Marla. Let's make sure. I got to go back and look at what our list of things are, and we'll make sure that we're connected for that.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And be well, everybody.